Morning. This is from Michael Singer's book called Living Untethered, and he has just spent about 3 or 4 chapters digging into the science of how we came to be in a physical form. Every single moment in front of you took billions of years, with everything happening exactly like it did, to manifest as it is. To fully understand what this means, it helps to look at a simple example from your family history. If your great-great-great-grandmother didn't meet your great-great-great-grandfather, you're not here. That's simply the truth. Let's take a moment to tell a story of how they met, so you can see how dependent everything is on everything else. The story begins all the way back with the dinosaurs. After a fierce storm in what is now south central Florida, there's a big dinosaur lumbering around. When this dinosaur put its big footprint down into the soil, it caused a gigantic imprint in the mud. Over time, rainwater accumulated in this deep imprint, and the earth began to erode around it. Eventually, the water area grew so large, it became what we now call Lake Okeechobee, which does exist. Millions of years later, the Miami tribe settled by that lake because of the fresh water, fish, and other animals. Centuries passed, and Spanish settlers built a small town on the edge of the lake. Your great-great-great-grandmother was a descendant of the Miami, and your great-great-great-grandfather was visiting this small Spanish settlement. One day, while it was pouring rain around the lake, your great-great-great-grandfather was drinking in the local saloon. He was so drunk, when he stepped out of the saloon, he never noticed your great-great-great-grandmother walking by, sopping wet. Just as he stumbled down the stairs, falling drunk to the ground, your great-great-great-grandmother slipped in the mud and fell right on top of him. They looked at each other, they started laughing, and it was love at first sight. The rest is history. In other words, if the dinosaurs hadn't walked there millions of years ago, and if the Miami tribe hadn't settled there, and if the Spaniards hadn't built a town there, and if it hadn't been raining that day, and if Grandpa hadn't fallen down drunk at the exact spot where Grandma slipped in the mud, you're not here, and neither are a lot of other things. Every single thing is the result of every single thing that ever happened throughout time and space. You are not the doer. You are the experiencer of reality. If this is true, then it's pretty silly to think it took 13.8 billion years for this moment to get here. And every single thing had to happen exactly as it did, but I don't like it. That's funny. It's like saying you don't like that Saturn has rings. Okay, now you see why we took some time to explore that what's in front of you came from. What's in front of you has nothing to do with you. It's the result of trillions of factors that caused it to be the way it is. That is our first encounter of what surrender and acceptance really mean. You don't surrender to the outside world. You totally accept it. What you surrender is your personal made-up judgment about it. If you were asked whether it's okay with you that Saturn has rings, you'd probably look puzzled and say, what does that have to do with me? That's a crazy question. The truth is, every single thing is that way. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the forces that caused it to be the way it is. And those forces stretch back billions of years. The total acceptance of this truth is surrender. You must let go of the part of you that thinks it has the right to like and dislike the result of billions of years of interactions. Surrender is letting go of that part of you that's not living the truth. That is true surrender.
Thank you, Jan. Each week, we offer a tangible gift from the abundance of our lives to help sustain us in our sacred place of memory, hope, and possibility. Now we'll have our message.
Good morning. I'm honored to be here this morning with you all. If we were meeting each other one-to-one, I might shake your hand and say, "Hi, I'm Jan Barrett. I'm glad to meet you." And who is it exactly that I would be meeting? Are you your name, your family history, your profession, your appearance, your credentials, your net worth? Are you your thoughts or your feelings or even your beliefs and dreams? I'm going today to offer some directions in which we might journey to explore who we are and maybe even remember who we are. All right, well, we just went backwards in time with the reading. We're not going to go back quite that far, but I invite you to go back a little ways to when you were about 5 or 6 years old. And I invite you to notice what you would have seen if you looked in the mirror. Do you have freckles? Do you have a dimple? Did you have questions? And who is it that's looking in the mirror when you're 5 or 6? Travel to your teen years. Look in the mirror again. Dimple, freckles, pimples, and maybe some judgment about all of that. But who is looking in the mirror? Who is that? Okay, some of you maybe aren't even at your 30s yet. So go to someplace just in your close to your current age if you're under 30. The rest of us, go to your 30s and look in the mirror, because now you are an adult, your brain is fully developed, you're over 25. Who do you see when you look in the mirror? Who is doing the looking? Okay, current age. You made it through many years of looking in the mirror. Look again. Who is looking? Who is that? Is that you? By now, would you agree with Michael Singer when he says, quote, "You're in there, you know you're in there, and you've been in there all along"? Are you perhaps the witness consciousness that's been looking into the mirror? Are you the one who's able to observe what you see, what you hear, what you experience? Are you the observer? But what about your thoughts? Are you also the observer of your thoughts? You do have thoughts, right? Oh, a long time ago, I met some Unitarians and I thought, oh, you guys are just such awesome thinkers. And I still think that. They're awesome thinkers. So are you your thoughts, though? Or are you someone who's capable of experiencing thoughts, analyzing thoughts, dissecting thoughts, discarding thoughts, embracing thoughts? Are you the thoughts, or are you the witness of your thoughts? Who are you anyway? And if you're not your thoughts, how are you going to find your way through the maze that they sometimes create in there? So what Singer did to describe my mind, he said, quote, "You are consulting your inner mess and you are expecting a clear response." Okay, so I want you to notice what's in your mind right now. What thoughts or images or feelings or just what's floating around in there. In the book I just read from, Living Untethered, Michael Singer speaks about the empty mind, what B.K.S. Iyengar, my yoga teacher, would call the vastness within us. The empty mind, Singer says, is like a highly functioning computer with zero software. It's completely available for us to use as we choose. But what happens, Singer says, this is my word, not his, is we clutter this up. His words, we clutter with butterflies and rattlesnakes. Butterflies are the things that we love, the things we want, and we want more of. I like steak, I want more. I like that boy, I want him. These yearnings are what the Buddhists would call clinging. And rattlesnakes, of course, are the things I'd rather not experience. The things I don't want anything to do with, that I don't even want to think about. Like, I don't like the cost of gas, I don't like the political system, etc. I can just hear the whining in my voice. And I'm resisting the 13.8 billion years that took me to get here. So it's not the events that we don't want to experience. It's the feelings and the beliefs that are wrapped in there with them. These are aversions, according to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and according to Singer and some Buddhists, I'm sure. So Singer points out that a rattlesnake doesn't rattle all the time. We're not going to notice that. The image of the rattling will come and go. But what happens is we use the power of our free will to concentrate our attention on the rattling. Like the rays of the sun get concentrated when they go through a magnifying glass, intensified. He calls that concentrated consciousness. And it stops that rattlesnake experience from being able to just flow through us. It gets stuck in there. This concentrated consciousness is necessary for us to function. If I'm balancing my checkbook, I need to know how to add and subtract. I need to pull in that quality of focusing, that concentrated consciousness. However, the more I spend energy clinging to what I want and pushing away what I don't want, the less room there is in this emptiness of the computer for me to just experience what's right in front of me and experience the emptiness inside. Where last month, I was supposed to be up here and I got COVID. I was supposed to talk about awe, because that was the theme of the month, awe. I've already written this. I mean, this talk was already written. How would you get to awe? You got to get into some of that emptiness, is in my experience. I think everybody has their own way, but I was going to suggest you got to get into that empty space. Or that's what we access when we're in an experience of awe. How are you going to find out who you are? Is that information in the empty space? What he says is, we have this human predicament section in the book, and the human predicament is, you're in there, you're not okay in there, and you've developed concepts of how everything needs to be for you to be okay in there. In other words, we've each developed our own set of butterflies and rattlesnakes to make it through life, to feel okay inside. Singer uses a word from the Hindu tradition, samskaras, for the clusters of preferences that we accumulate over time. We create these blockages in order to feel okay inside. And we often try to orchestrate the outer world. Looking at my husband as I say this, I often try to orchestrate the outer world to comply with this so I still feel okay in here. But the outer world rarely complies with my preferences. It just doesn't. And so there I am. Because it didn't comply, I'm uncomfortable in here. So what Singer suggests is that we can experience more and more of who we are by releasing our preferences, just letting them go, and releasing anything else that keeps us from being here now. It really doesn't matter what spiritual or philosophical tradition you come from, or you don't claim any of that, as long as you are willing to notice what you're noticing in your own insides and how you thus are relating to the world around you. As long as you're willing to practice letting go of what you want and welcoming what's in front of you, you begin with relaxing. So Singer says, just relax and lean back. So I invite you to lean forward like an inch. Just move your body away from the back of your chair so it's not touching you. And just let your shoulders drop, or do something in your body that helps you kind of relax. And then lean back just a little. And that's the first step. Just notice what is, relax, and lean back. There's a much higher way to live, Singer says, but it requires that you change how you interact with your mind and with the life unfolding before you. I chose that opening reading about your great-great-great-grandmother meeting your great-great-great-grandfather, splatted in the mud, to remind us that we can choose to see every moment as precious. We wouldn't be here if those great-great-great-grandparents hadn't had that experience. So why am I resisting this moment that took 13.8 billion years to create. It sounds really irrational, doesn't it? It's like, why am I doing this? It's because of the blockages, because I put my attention on something I want or something I don't want. The butterfly experiences that I want to have. I want more steak. I want less rattle, less rattle. So the example, couple of examples Singer gives, let's say you're lonesome, and so you seek out someone to be a companion. But this strategy does not address the root cause of your loneliness. Like if you ate something that's not so good for you, it was a Thanksgiving weekend example. So you ate something that's not so good for you, and you dash over to the medicine cabinet in search of the Pepto-Bismol. And the Pepto-Bismol is nowhere to be found, and you blame the lack of Pepto-Bismol for your tummy ache. And that pink stuff might help you for a little while, but it doesn't get to the root cause, does it? You have to be aware of what you put in there. So he says that we do this a lot. We do this kind of behavior instead of releasing what we prefer. So a quote that I really like from him is, one of the most amazing things you will ever realize is that the moment in front of you is not bothering you. You are bothering yourself about the moment in front of you. We get to choose. Singer's phrase, either you devote your life to getting the world to match your samskaras, or you devote your life to letting go of your samskaras. So how do you let go of them? Well, you relax, you lean back. You practice positive thinking. Remember, some of you in this room know this really well, is it 5 or 7 times that you have to have like 5, it's either 5 or 7 positive thoughts or affirmations for every negative one that pops up. That's like neuroscience speaking here, and I don't have it. It's at least 5. So if you've got a negative, you hear my whine, I've got to have 5 times that much volume of acceptance or even joy. All right, so I can practice positive thinking. I can meditate twice a day. He suggests that you count your breath 25 times. I tried it. I'm counting to 10 and then starting over. I had never tried to count to 25. I should try this. I kind of liked it. So meditating twice a day can help us release, and it can help us find that empty, fully functioning computer inside. We can also practice a mantra. I have a friend who moved to California several years ago, and she was experiencing lots of challenges, and I asked how she was getting through them. And she just said, I just say my mantra over and over and over again. And Singer points out, it needs to be a mantra. Don't be picking something from the Hindu tradition that has no meaning to you. If it has no meaning to you, pick something. I am. Love is. Pick something that really resonates for you, that you just kind of carry it around, like some people carry a special rock in their pocket. You can carry it around with you. And you also can practice witness consciousness. We just did that a few minutes ago when you imagine that you're looking in the mirror. Who was looking? The witness was looking. So we're practicing that. We could practice it. I could practice it more. We're going to experiment. Well, I can't make you experiment. I'm going to invite you to experiment a little bit with that witness consciousness and with the practice of meditation. And Steve was going to be playing with the bowls during meditation. So Lisa's going to play with the bowls. She's going to, what do you call that? When somebody comes through you, you just let Steve come through you. Okay. Yes, yeah, if you want to. Yeah, I'm sure he's willing. Yeah, and Michael is going to be also helping with some quiet during our meditation time. What I invite you to do is I'm going to read a little from a book that I love, a meditation book, and we're not going to stay in silence for 20 minutes, but I invite you to just notice what comes up, like what's up right now. Maybe you don't like to meditate. Maybe you think it's a big waste of time. Maybe it's never worked for you because you can't find the emptiness. All you can find is the clutter. You might have all kinds of things that are coming up. So just notice what comes up and decide, do I want to keep it? Is it a rattle? Do I want to release it? Just practice that a little bit during this time. So if you want to just do some quieting, what?
I was thinking we'd do a minute or two of silence.
Yeah, we will. We'll do a little bit of silence, but we will not do 20 minutes of silence. No, we'll do a little silence at the end. And the reading that I'm going to read is Beginning Silence. The name of it is Beginning Silence. It's from one of my favorite meditation books by a woman named Gunilla Norris. And her book is called Inviting Silence. Beginning silence. If you would like, you can close your eyes or you can leave them open, but in either case, just gently let them gaze downward so that the muscles around the eyes get to rest. Let them rest. Let your shoulders soften and let your face soften. Soften from your hairline down through your eyebrows so that the eyebrows unknit themselves. They're loose now. The eyes floating in the sockets. The corners of the mouth soft. The jaw melting away from the bottom of the ear. Letting your tongue become wide and quiet. And you can invite these little pieces of relaxation to be what you notice when you are in the silence in a moment and when you're listening to the words. You can just notice if anything happens in your quiet phase. Just notice what you notice. Beginning silence. Within each of us, there is a silence as vast as the universe. We are afraid of it, and we long for it. When we experience that silence, we remember who we are. Creatures of the stars, created from the birth of galaxies, created from the cooling of this planet, created from dust and gas, created from time and space, created from silence. Silence is the source of all that exists, the unfathomable stillness where vibration began, the first oscillation, the first word from which life emerged. Silence is our deepest nature, our home, our common ground, our peace. Silence reveals. Silence heals. Silence is where God dwells. We yearn to be there. So as you are aware of the quiet sounds from the bowls and the quiet from Michael, just notice what you're noticing.